So for this example, we'll go all the way back to the gymnastics footage that I first indexed during the quick start. So I have these 3 gymnastics clips, and they show as having a proxy, and they show as having a source that is currently unavailable to me. But I can view the proxy here. I can download the proxy, as we've talked about before. And the other thing I can do is I can create new proxies. So if the source is in fact unavailable to me, but because the proxy that was created is too low bitrate for me to use, I can say, okay, well, I'm going to create a proxy for this that's an HD high res or a high bitrate. And you see that goes there and it starts to encode, or it queues up, and now that shows up as encoding. And I can do that with the others as well. I'm going to create HD high bitrate proxies for them as well. So once that's done, what we're going to see is that this window is going to change from something pretty grainy to something much sharper. And when I drag down that clip into my application or into the Adobe panel, as I showed you before, you're going to drag down that higher bitrate version of the proxy instead of the preview proxy. So now I go back here and I see there's an OK. So this may require one click here to get this to happen, but you see that just sharpened right up. You see that's now an HD res instead of a preview res. And if I hit this and I go full screen, you'll see that's a much sharper, much nicer image than I had before. And you'll see that since that's still encoding, so this is using the older version, you'll see if I blow this up, yeah, that's kind of muddy. You can see that's definitely not an HD resolution image. But once these are all done encoding, as you can see here, that's still encoding. This one's all done, so it's just on the 3rd one. That's going to be ready pretty soon. I can then go into my Premiere, log in. Once again, that password gets me. And go to, I'm just going to do a search for gym, right? Okay, there's my gymnastics stuff. So I can do a search for that, and just to make sure it's the right ones, I can do a search for that. I can go to CMG, that volume that we had first done. So okay, those are the 3 clips that I'd want to find. Now, once again, the source shows up to be, let me just bring this up a bit so you can see a little better. The source shows up not available to me on my desktop, or I can't mount that source. But because of that, I made a higher bitrate proxy. So you see here that that's still getting through its final encoding pass, but these 2 are all done. So those are all done encoding. So I'm going to grab all those 3 and just drag them down to my timeline, and see that that's now the sharper high-res image that I would expect, and I can use that in lieu of the high-res source that I have. If I ever wanted to link to the high-res source instead of to the proxy, that's pretty simple. All I have to do is figure out where this high-res source is. It's on the CMG volume. I have to get myself available, get myself permissioned to see that volume. So I'll go to my admin here, add permission for Jim M for write. And there we go there. And now I should be able to mount that volume. And sure enough, it's mounted. So what's going to happen now is I mounted the volume. I could have mounted it through the panel, but I just mounted it from my client console, and that's now come online. So these other ones are on stock. This one's on CMG, so I'm going to change all of these to be on CMG. One of the examples I mentioned before was that if you find an asset that's unavailable to you, you just have to look and see, well, is it on another volume that's available to me? So for example, CMG I can get access to, but stock video is still not something I can get access to. So all I have to do here is say make primary there, and make primary here, and then hitting refresh brings those all online for me. So if for some reason I wanted to change from using the proxy file to now using the high-res version on that volume instead, then this might be because I proxied to a local drive, took it home with me, worked, and came back in. So what, in essence, what would happen is, once I remove that previews volume from my system and move around here, oops, it's on the proxy volume. Once I remove the proxy volume from the system, hey, what happened? It went offline. Well, sure. I'm just going to locate that. I'm just going to point you right at the volume where the high res exists, and that is on the CMG volume. And it locates the media, and you're good to go. And that happened because it's in the same path, and so we utilize the same path for the proxy as we do for the original online media. So it's easy for Adobe to go and now find that media and relink to it automatically. So some of the things we can do here, and I'll get out of this view because in order for me to see all the metadata, I have to make it kind of small. So I'll get back into the desktop browse view here, and there we go. So now I have some metadata that I want to add. Maybe this happened before I brought it into my timeline. Maybe there's a person that's just in charge of managing the metadata, tagging these files as needed. So for example, I have some keywords I want to add in here. I know her name is Trish, and Danielle is there as well, and Mary. Some people who are in the gymnastics team. So I can now search on any of those. Notes here would be, let's see, I want to use parts after the pan. So that would be a note that I'd send over to the editor. If I'm a producer, if I'm just someone tagging this, someone doing QC on the files, maybe there's something wrong, something in the frame I didn't want to be in the show, I'll add that information to my notes here. Now, we did some tagging before. We did some work in the administration before where we added a custom tag, and this is that custom tag. It's called camera op. And camera op, as you may have seen before in the previous section, we did custom values for that with a drop down. It was Jim, Dave, and Buddy, and I'll put Buddy down as the camera op for these. In fact, I'm going to put Buddy down as the camera op for all three of these. Other things that we can do here, and you can do this in the panel as well, all of this stuff can be done in the panel. I can change the catalog designation. So say for example these all came in under a global catalog. So I made my global catalog settings such that it was indexing every volume. And after that I was going to go through the footage and decide what catalog I should put those in. Just by viewing them and seeing where they are, and the names of the directory structures and job codes and all these things. So if I wanted to, I could say, you know what, this actually needs to have its own catalog. There's no gymnastics catalog here. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to go to catalogs. Can't make a catalog because I'm not logged in as admin anymore, so I'm going to log out. I'm going to log back in as admin and go to catalogs, and I'm going to make a new catalog. My gymnastics catalog, don't need a description for that. And from here, now, I'm going to just refresh, grab all these clips, and say, now I need these to be in the gymnastics catalog, and I'm going to take them out of the demo catalog. Now, what I just did there is I actually changed what's available to me. So if catalog I just added in here had more proxy settings assigned to it, then it would give me more values for creating new proxies than I may have had before. So being able to set catalogs for large massive clips at the same time gives you the ability to bring everything into the same catalog and then go through it afterwards. You can go through it easily just through, for example, my Jake volume. So this is all Jake's stuff, and maybe I don't want some users to see all of Jake's stuff here. So I may decide that Jake needs his own catalog. So I can highlight all of this stuff. Go to the catalogs, which there's a bunch of different catalogs here. Find the Jake catalog and apply that all to the Jake catalog and to nothing else. So it sort of separates things out from any other view that anyone else has, and only Jake can see it because it's his catalog and he's the only one with access to it, for example. So that's something you can do with the catalogs here, and it's a great way to actually set up select clips to set up for an editorial session, is to create files or to create catalogs for the editor, and then just add clips to that. Just sort of when you find a clip that you want to go into the edit, just go to the catalog, select that catalog. The next thing that happens is they refresh their catalog on their desktop and they see that new clip show up and they start to use it. So it's an easy way within the facility to be moving, sort of clip metadata back and forth between different locations within the database so that different people can make use of it, just through another search or through a refresh of their view. They'll see new things coming up that they can use. So that's one thing you get with a catalog-based system that you just don't get with a browser-based system, because yeah, this is nice, you can see everything and where it is, but it's not real organization. If you organized ahead of time and that's where everything is supposed to be, that's one thing, but you can't organize it after the fact necessarily. One more thing I wanted to show you here is the ability to delete clips. Since I'm logged in here as admin, I can go through and delete a bunch of clips if I want to. So I'm going to go into a volume that I know I have lots of duplicates. For example, I'm going to grab these here. These are XMLs that got taken in when I maybe my size setting wasn't set correctly, or my extensions weren't set correctly, and I had these sort of thumbnail and these weird XML settings files come in. So I'm going to just delete those records because I don't need to see those in my catalog. So from here, I go to the status, and status on this is normal, and I just say delete asset. That's deleted. Now if I hit refresh again right here, it goes out of the view because I'm not looking at deleted clips, I'm only looking at active clips. If I want to go one step further and permanently delete it, I can do that here, or if I want to restore it, I can do that here as well if I just made a mistake. The other way to get access to the clip after you've deleted it, and I'll show you how this sort of goes away, so those clips aren't there anymore. The other way to get access to those deleted clips is to go to my catalog view and just say, you know what, I'm going to show all catalogs anytime, all volumes, but I'm only going to show deleted clips here. And then I'm going to hit search and get rid of my search term. And these are all the clips I've deleted. So we can go and find those that I just deleted. I think there's a couple XML files there, so I can just do a search on that. Okay, there they are. So now I can say, okay, you know what, permanently delete those, and get rid of them altogether, and now they won't show up. Those are gone from the system now. But if I wanted to restore a record, for example, this was something that I ingested. Looks to be decent size, although it looks like I didn't have a proxy setting on, which is probably why I deleted that. There's no proxy here. So if I want to restore those so I can get them back into the catalog and make proxies for them, I just have to go here and restore asset. Now if I hit this refresh again, let's keep track of what that was. That was 1547, so I'll search for that. So that goes away from the deleted records. Now if I go to all catalogs and I just do a star 1547, okay, there they are. So they came back, and now they're in the catalog where they were before, which was the global catalog. So restored the asset to its previous location in the global catalog. These are just assets. We're not moving any files, deleting any files here. We're just deleting assets and changing catalog allocations for assets. FastTracker, once again, it wants to be passive until the point where you tell it not to be. So it's just going to tell you where stuff is. It's going to sort of point to things if it can, and it's going to find duplicate files. It's going to try and keep track of where things are. And if you tell it to move, if you tell it to move files, it will delete the original. That's the only time it's going to delete a file is if you tell it to move it from one place to the other. And it does verify that it moved there before it deletes it. And it has to be a location that the server knows about. It won't move a file from the server drive to a person's laptop and then delete it from the server. It has to be a place the server can see and the server knows about, and it's on a volume that the server has mounted. So it's pretty safe that you're always going to keep a copy of the data that you want to keep.